Today, I want to talk about the 3-day conventions. Maybe they were 4 days, maybe they were 1 day. It really depends on what you were doing. But at least it was a very big experience, a big Jehovah's Witness experience. You all went there, and they were sometimes international, and they were sometimes more local or like very far away. Really depends on that. People of all ethnicities, all kinds of people, all kinds of experiences, a whole day and weekend plan for Jehovah's Witnesses. I wonder if you still remember. We're going to talk about these Jehovah's Witness conventions. Let's get it started. Yeah, so before we start, please like and subscribe to this channel. I got 500 subscribers. I got 500 subscribers, and I'm very happy that I did. And thank you so much for the support. Thank you so much for that. This is amazing. This way I can grow. I want to grow more to make this channel even a better thing, to become bigger, and I can do more. I want to get more out of this channel, so like and subscribe. Okay. Thank you very much. What I can talk about is the 3-day conventions. I used to go there when I was a child, but usually it was very far away from our house. And so we had to leave early. We didn't come along with any sisters or brothers because we were a whole family, of course, of like 5 people. So it was hard to come along. I'm not really sure how that is when my parents just had my sister, for instance, or just my sister and brother. But with me, I can remember it was only like my mom and I and my brother. We were going there eventually by public transport. My mom, I remember that we used to travel, like we went there and then we got back home, and then we went the next day again and back home. And sometimes she chose to go one day. You could drive with other Jehovah's Witnesses, and you could go there with your own car, of course. But for us, it was public transport because we didn't have a car. It was a whole happening. These conventions, like a stadium, arena or whatever, where they had these conventions. So it was a very like a very big building where they held it. Like there were a lot of people sitting around, like a crowd, and there was something in the middle. And I don't know, I think there were screens as well. I know that there are screens now, but it's such a long time ago. I can't really remember anymore. It was in the 90s. You had a whole program. You knew about this program. The topics were like the same everywhere. The topic was like a year topic. It was everywhere the same. It still is like that. So if you look at these programs, I'm gonna put a picture inside this video about it, what like the last year's 2025 program was like. Maybe I can find something about 2026 as well, and what the topic is. But usually it's like topics about God being a loving God, the strength or like peace or whatever, the richness of being a Jehovah's Witness, whatever, like life-changing, so, like these types of topics. In a program, usually you start with some Bible stuff, some topics they talk about. It just like varies who stands there and is going to do a speech. You sing together there as well. I'm gonna show it all in this video with pictures and stuff. What I remember is something that I don't know if they still do that, and that was very. I don't know. I cannot really remember that much of it, but I remember my sister saying that she loved it. Was Jehovah's Witness drama? Yeah, there's a lot of drama, but specifically Jehovah's Witness drama pieces where people doing a play that has anything to do with a Bible story of some sort. So there was a drama being played out by people. It was with clothing and stuff, some Bible stories. Especially, it was related to the topic that was the convention. I remember at conventions you could buy books. A lot of books were there that you could buy, from Bibles to whatever, like young people ask books, all those types of things. I remember the food. You could get milk cartons and stuff, and drinks. Like there was some cantina type of thing. I don't know if that's the word, canteen. I don't know. But you could get food there, of course. But also people were getting baptized there. So maybe you've seen these pictures. I'm going to show some from people getting baptized at these big conventions. So you had to. I've read a little bit about it recently, and they said like you need to sit in front of the, I think the bath or something, or like the pool that's there, where people can get baptized. So you need to sit there if you wanted to be baptized, and that's something that I knew that happened. My parents did that, and like no one else really, none of the children really did that. None of us are baptized, but I remember that my parents talked about it, that they did, and so that's something you can do there as well. Other things, like you meet a lot of like sisters and brothers, you see a lot of them, which is very good interactive stuff. Actually, I liked the interaction with people more on the conventions than in the Kingdom Hall, because maybe because it was a little, like it was such an experience, and then you didn't really have to do with these people that much anymore. But I remember people actually being kind. I remember there was a young couple, and I got some candy from them. Of course, that was cool for me because I was still young, and they thought I was a very sweet little girl. And yeah, it. I really enjoyed that, of course. So that's the overall experience. A lot of children from all kinds of ethnicities, with their clothing on, like cultural clothing on, which was beautiful. Something that I never saw anywhere else necessarily, unless I went to these markets. You had these bazaar. I don't know if that's the name, but you had these markets, like these indoor markets, and then with all these types of cultures in my country, with Indian people, and like from Suriname, and people from like all kinds of things, just like selling anything. It was great, Africans, Moroccan, all kinds of cultures. It was kind of like that, I think. It felt like that, but then on a very big scale. And in that case, we're getting into the world conventions. That is, it's not always like that. So sometimes you have more local stuff going on, and then it's just the people in your country. But sometimes you have these world conventions, and then people from all over the world come to, for instance, Amsterdam or whatever, to get together. And that is very unique. That is a unique experience. I kind of enjoyed it, but I'm getting into the program. So my experience on the program at a convention was actually, you had a whole day actually listening to, as a child, listening to old gray men in gray suits talking about Jehovah and their lessons, and talking about the Bible, from the Bible. And it was very boring as a child. I don't know. I felt like I had to come along. I like the I like the breaks. I like the breaks to actually interact with people and with the environment, and maybe look at kids or whatever. I never really played. Like, I felt like everyone was kind of careful or something. I didn't really dare to play that much. And also because my mom was paranoid, so she didn't really let me play anywhere. Of course, for the food and maybe something delicious to eat or drink. I remember my mom and dad brought along some juice boxes and something to eat, like bread or anything. It was very normal to take your own bread there. What I remember was I was drawing, of course. Used to do that in the Kingdom Halls as well. I was drawing. Yeah, as a child, I don't know, you just come along, and I'm going back home. Usually I fell asleep when I in the train going home, because usually it was very late. And that is the experience. I cannot remember that much, but some things. And it was just extremely boring. It was an extremely boring sitting the whole freaking day. And there was nothing really to do for kids there as well, in my experience. There never was. You had to bring something along yourself. So boring AF. Okay, I want to talk about something very specific, and that was when I was around 12 years old, maybe a little older. I started to become a teenager, maybe a horny teenager. I'm gonna bleep this way, But at some point, I remember daydreaming about boys, or like actually cartoon boys, because I used to like cartoon boys first before real boys. It came later a little bit because I had to live in my own fantasy world, and that was the only thing I was allowed to like. So yeah, you can fall in love or have a crush on someone, and it was, for me, was cartoon boys. So I was daydreaming during these conventions. I remember that, and I was a horny teenager there, and then it got wild at some point. But I had no eye for the boys there. I don't know. That's kind of strange. So at some point you're just not interested anymore. That is where it kind of cut off for me. I didn't care anymore. I was asking questions. I get no answers. Okay, so I just didn't care anymore. That is the reality. That was the reality for me. This is where I quit, and I wanted nothing to do with it anymore. And so, okay, so I was thinking about, like, what were conventions like back then, and what are conventions like right now. Back in the day, it was more dry. It was more like drama related. Yes, there was drama, but now there are a lot of more screens and stuff. There's more multimedia that they're showing on the screens, and more videos they're showing. So there's a little bit of lightness there. It's not just constantly listening only to a person talking the whole time, talking, speaking. Apparently, it's less dry. But I've seen a video. I can show you that video, a picture of it, of a guy that actually went to convention, like the 2025 one. He was really getting into that in a very fun manner. And then the second day, he just completely lost it. And I thought it was really interesting to see how quickly he demolished into suffering there. And it was very interesting. So I really recommend you watching that video because it's really good. I think it's really good. So also what you will see is a lot of beards now all of a sudden, because people, like, men had to be shaved, clean shaved. I remember that. Every man was clean shaved, and now you see a lot of beards there. And also women, the clothing restrictions are a little like looser now, and women can actually wear they can wear a nice pants, and it's a little better. It's kind of, it's crazy to me. It's kind of weird that now all of a sudden the governing body says this is allowed to wear now, and now you can do it. They're deciding the religious trends there. It's extremely weird, but okay. Oh yeah, one thing you can also do, you couldn't do in the 90s, for instance, was streaming the convention. You can now actually watch it from home if you don't want, if you don't feel like going there, or you cannot go there, maybe you're sick or whatever. You can actually stream the convention, which is very of this time as well. So, oh yeah, what I also noticed was there is more folks, like it used to be very much about the rules, the strict rules that you had to follow as a Jehovah's Witness, and now it's actually more focused on the emotional thing. I feel like it's more focused on the, like, God is such a sweet God and loving Jehovah and stuff, and it's very much about, if you see the lecture, it feels very light. And now all of a sudden, it never used to be like that. It feels very light, like the pictures are light and the texts are light. It's about love instead of like these strict rules and a lot of panic and heavy imagery. It's still there, but if it's on the outside, you're not seeing what's really going on inside. So yeah, if you've been there and you weren't brainwashed, you were thinking for yourself, what was really going on. So yeah, but okay, but that is what has happened. They're getting looser a little bit. Yeah. So I was talking about the lecture for children, or like there was nothing for kids back in the day. And what I noticed, I've been looking it up a little bit. What I noticed was that Etsy is actually offering, some people there are offering lecture for conventions about the topic, and like a workbook they can work with, or like some sheets and stuff they can work with, some merchandise for this convention. and stuff to entertain the kids, because it's very, very important, I think. So kids can, it was some relatable stuff to the topics, but then also that they have something to do the whole day and the whole weekend, because it's extremely dry. It's dry information for adults and not for children, really. So I'm happy to see that. At least I wish that was there when I was little. Also, something that I noticed was there is actually a line of workbooks for Jehovah's Witness children, or then Jehovah's Friends, Jehovah's Friends, not Jehovah's Witness children, but Jehovah's Friends, where they actually have their own workbooks. They can answer questions, and I saw some like things like drawings, color sheets, and things that are related for actually Kingdom Halls. They are official from the JW website, but they are not for conventions, which is kind of shitty, I think. But yeah, you really have to look it up if you want something for the Kingdom Halls. So okay, there's some, I'm actually happy that there's some things for children now. There weren't anything. It wasn't really anything for children back in the day. So yeah, I looked it up as well, and I didn't really see anything for children. I really checked it again. There is a book, but there's not really anything interesting to make except for the things for the Kingdom Hall. So my overall conclusion on this topic is that I wish that there was a little bit more to do for children. Yes, there was a bit more to do. There was maybe in your country, maybe in your area, in your conventions, you had something to do for the kids. Let me know if you had, because I didn't experience that. And also, what is your experience? I wonder, what was your experience at the 3-day, maybe 4-day, maybe 1-day conventions? What have you been experiencing? Anything fun to very bad experiences? I wonder, let me know in the comments. Yeah, for me, it's just, of course, it's another manipulation maneuver. For me, that's what it is, but that's what they do, just simple. It was boring. It was also a boring experience, but not as boring as a weekly Kingdom Hall experience. What I did enjoy was all the ethnicities on the world conventions. That was very cool, actually, and I just enjoy the experience. It was an experience that you didn't really have that much as Jehovah's Witness, because you're of course not really celebrating anything, so it's easy to not celebrate anything ever and experience those things because they're outside of the world. And this was an experience together. I think that was the best get together, but it was also the most intense traveling. And yeah, it was an experience. But what I did like was sometimes we were allowed to actually still go shop a little bit afterwards, or go to stores in the big city, because I was living in the city, but still these cities were way bigger and of course very different. But also when I was a teenager, it was not a good experience. Like, I was not busy with it. I didn't care that much, and absolutely not interesting to me. But it was a way to interact with people that I normally didn't see, and they actually came off nice as nice people. So yeah, but I think it was, maybe I've developed that as well afterwards, that I really enjoy talking to people, but then not sticking around. I enjoy talking to a lot of people actually as a person, but they not sticking around. I'm okay with that. People come and go, and I'm okay with that. And maybe it's because I was used to that. I don't know. But anyways, thank you very much for watching this video. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching this video, and peace.